This episode is brought to you by Smart Food, the sweet, salty snack you need this holiday season. Air pop popcorn, tossed in delicious white cheddar cheese, or mixed with sweet caramel and cheddar. It's the perfect snack for your smart holiday party. Learn more at smartfood.com.
Empire.
Hello and welcome to my podcast, yet another bonus one because, well, the game is Tuesday and so much has changed since my last podcast on Friday. So I'll be joined by the Washington Post's Nicki Jhabvala and the Richmond Times Dispatch's Michael Phillips to discuss all that's happened, what it means for Tuesday when Washington plays the Eagles. You can follow Nicki on Twitter at Nicki Jhabvala, that's JNICKIJHABVALA, and read her work on WashingtonPost.com. You can follow Michael at MichaelPRTD and read his work at the Richmond Times Dispatch's site. You can read my work, of course, on ESPN.com. I have a lot up there now about all that's going on. It changes by the day, so head to the site to keep up. As we record this on Sunday, there's now more of a chance that Taylor Heinicke will be back than Kyle Allen, but what percentage? Really don't know at all yet. After practice on Sunday, Ron Rivera said the numbers were trending up for the quarterbacks, which is a good thing. The higher the number, the less infectious apparently they become. I'm not a scientist, don't understand that. That's what they say. So if the numbers are going up, that's a good thing. What that means beyond today, who knows? It helps that receiver Cam Sims and defensive lineman Daniel Wise were activated off the list, as we'll discuss in a minute. Washington is now down to 16 players on the COVID list, but also compounding that is J.D. Mckissick and Curtis Samuel. Neither one of those guys has practiced all week. Mckissick now has a neck issue. Samuel has a hamstring issue. And then you also have tight end Ricky Seals-Jones, who did not practice on Sunday because of an illness. It is not a COVID situation, so there's still a chance he could play. Right now, they're down to one true tight end in John Bates, and then they have practice squatter Alex Armah, who they had in Carolina. This staff did. And Rivera said he can play fullback, running back, tight end. That could be your duo on Tuesday, so we'll see. Anyway, in my conversation with Nicki and Michael, we'll cover all the scenarios, plus what it means to get certain players back, like John Allen, Montez Sweat, as well as the other two ends, James Smith-Williams and Casey Toohill. If you listened to the podcast the other day, you know that these were players Washington was optimistic about returning. Back to the quarterbacks. If they can get Kyle Allen or Taylor Heinicke back, then I think they have a really good shot at winning this game. I'll also ask Nicki and Michael if the Eagles fans and some of their media are justified in saying that Washington wasn't following protocols, so why are the Eagles being punished? To be honest, I'm not sure how they know that. There's an assumption in Philly that it started with Montez Sweat, and that's not what I heard. I can't say anything for positive, but I certainly know that they can't either. So, and I'm not, people can say whatever they want, but it looks like an easy 1 + 1 = 2 because Sweat had it. But the bottom line is our understanding is he wasn't even in the building around this time when he got it. So I don't know. I can't say that for sure. I'm not ruling anything out. I just don't think you can make that leap and say, well, it all started there and that they weren't following protocols. I think there was another player who may have spread it or possibly a staffer. What we know about this variant, Omicron, is that it spreads rapidly. We know that the Washington team doctor, Cancelero, told the media on a conference call the other day that of the 23 players, the NFL media, of the 23 players who had been on the list, he would have only held 2 out if it had just been based on their symptoms. What we know about this variant is that you can do a lot of things right and still catch it. I have a relative who had COVID, was vaxxed and boosted, and still caught it this week. For him, he said it feels like a bad cold right now. I know someone else in the same situation, had it, vaxxed, boosted, caught it again. This person doesn't have symptoms. They were doing things right and still caught it. So to say it was a matter of not following protocol is a bit, I don't want to say disingenuous or lazy. I just don't think it's accurate right now because we don't know. I don't blame fans for being upset. You'd be too if this had happened to Washington. Kind of did last year with the Pittsburgh game. But media, and they had to go out to the West Coast after that. But the media should be a lot more careful when saying things. I also go back to what Doc Walker talked about in my podcast last week about how he always wanted to face teams at their healthiest. It was the competitor in him. I don't know that everybody feels that way. I think guys just want to play when you play, and whoever you have, you go. I get that moving a game at this time of the year can put teams in a bad spot. That's where teams have to take their cue from the head coach. And if Nick Sirianni handles a certain way, then his players will as well. The same is true here with Ron Rivera. They've been very matter-of-fact with it all week. This team has been through a lot in the last 18 months or so, and I think that actually helps them in a situation like this. I think that it's a very adaptable group, and so we'll see what happens. But I don't think you can just assume certain things. Anyway, that's it for me. After this break, I'll be back with Michael Phillips from the Richmond Times Dispatch and Nicki Jhabvala from the Washington Post.
This episode is brought to you by HP Plus. In a world full of smart devices, shouldn't your printer be smart too? It is with HP Plus. These printers know when they're running low, so you always get the ink you need delivered right when you need it. Plus, you save up to 50% on ink, so you can print whatever you want, as much as you want, anytime you want. Huh, that is pretty smart. Get 6 free months of instant ink when you choose HP Plus. Conditions apply. Visit hp.com/smart for details.
It's Christmas week, and Draftkings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, has a gift that certainly will put you in the holiday spirit. New customers can bet just $5 on any NBA team and win $150 in free bets if they're victorious. It's a great way to put some extra jingle into your pocket. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, your Christmas can still be merry. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes with DraftKings daily fantasy basketball contests. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code KEIM, bet just $5 on any NBA team, and win $150 in free bets if they're victorious. That's promo code KEIM this Christmas week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Welcome back. Now here's my conversation with Nicki Jhabvala from the Washington Post and Michael Phillips from the Richmond Times Dispatch. Well, we don't know what's going to happen as we tape this because so much is still fluid. But I have Michael Phillips here and then Nicki Jhabvala. And I want to start with, one of the things I want to start with is just the protocols, because Philadelphia fans, media and all that, there's been a lot of harping on, well, one team followed the protocols, one didn't. What do you guys think of that? Because Nicki, we don't know.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, for people to say they know outright that everybody in Philadelphia followed all the protocols, they don't know that. I think most people in the Philadelphia locker room even don't know what probably some of their teammates are doing. So I think it's outlandish to claim that, and it would be outlandish for anybody in Washington to claim the same. So I think you have to be careful with that, and I can understand the why they'd be upset about moving it 2 days. But there have been teams on the other side of that too, and I would think from their perspective, do you want to play a team that is missing half its roster? I mean, wouldn't you want to play the full team?
Well, I guess it depends. It depends. Now that's somebody who he has a Kansas Jayhawks cap on, so you would want some guys to miss.
This is my Christmas gift from Pete Haley.
There you. Oh, okay,
how about that?
How about that? But. And I had Doc Walker on last week, and his thing was, he's like, I always wanted to play teams at full strength. I don't know.
Here's the thing, and the best point that's been made is it happened to these guys last year. They were in the Minnesota Steelers game, but if this game had been scheduled for Sunday at 1, there was a very legitimate case that Washington should have bagged it, forfeited the game, called it, and moved on to get healthy for Dallas, in which case nobody gets paid. And I think the Eagles players need to know you're complaining, but the alternative was not cashing a check potentially.
That is true. Nobody's really brought that up.
And I don't think that a lot of players understood that.
Yeah.
If they could have had the win, but they wouldn't have had money. And that's a tough call to make there.
I'll tell you who's taking the $40K. This guy right here. All right, we'll try and win Tuesday, but I'm not giving up $40K at Christmas.
No way.
Johnny needs a new pair of shoes. So that's what I say. So looking at this game, how hard is it to know what we know who's back already? All right, today Cam Sims and Daniel Wise came off, so there's about half dozen of back. So playing off that, and I'm going to assume right now one of the quarterbacks comes off.
Ooh, okay.
Just for sake of conversation, because if they don't,
I think that's a conversation ender if Garrett Gilbert lines up.
That's what I'm saying.
They don't win.
And I would like people to continue listening to us. So let's assume that one of those quarterbacks comes back. But let's say so knowing what we know right now, how would you assess their chances in this game.
There's a lot of things I like here. I like Antonio Gibson getting extra rest. I like if you have a quarterback, that's the caveat.
Right.
And I don't think it's a given.
It's not a given, but yeah.
Because it all depends on the swab. It's all up to the swab now. Stump the swab.
Stump the swabby. That's a good game.
But the defense has enough to contain Jalen Hurts, which has been the big issue. You can look back to that Giants game on Thursday night where Daniel Jones is running all over them. They have the personnel to contain Jalen Hurts as long as they play well. They have the personnel to run the ball effectively, which is their key to victory. If they have a quarterback, I'm not down on their chances at all.
No, and I think that's where, Nicki, getting that D-line back and going with those 5 D-line sets is huge.
Yeah, they're okay in the trenches, and I think that's everything. I mean, you've pointed out that the offensive line is mostly intact. I mean, they're down to their, 4th center, but they've held up. They still got Charles Leno, Eric Flowers is in there, Brandon Sheriff is back. They're in pretty good shape. Defensive line, they got Montez back. They got 3/4 of the starting line and their top 2 reserves at defensive end. So they're looking pretty good there. And I can't believe it's really come to this if they have a quarterback.
well,
that's where we're at.
You're kind of new around here, Nick.
Well,
we've said that many times over the years.
I went through the quarterback cycle in Denver for a bit, so I'm used to it.
If Josh Johnson could win in Jacksonville.
Right.
My line was Mark Sanchez ain't walking through that door anytime soon, so you got to roll with Gilbert or
I
Sullivan.
think the 2 biggest losses, if they're not cleared by game time, are Kendall Fuller and Cam Sims, because
Kendall's not playing.
Yeah, and that secondary is yikes.
Yeah, Cam Curl is a big loss. I mean, both of them are.
But Kendall's got the 10 days. He's out.
Kendall's out. Yeah. But one thing I like with that, and for speaking of 3 safeties, Nicki wrote a story on Landon Collins a couple days ago.
Thanks
a little
for the plug.
There you go.
Appreciate it.
But what I still like is that Bobby McCain has the versatility.
Yeah.
And so he can play up in the slot. He can move around. And DeShazer Everett is physical. So I think you still have elements that you can do. You just don't have it contained in one guy, which you have in Cam Curl. But what about you brought up the pass game? We'll talk about the pass game. Let's say it's Garrett Gilbert or Kyle Sherman. It looks like, I would guess it would be Gilbert. I don't know. But, what do they do? How do you make a passing game out of that, Michael?
I think you try to win Patriots style and, just run it on every single play like they did against Buffalo.
Triple wishbone, maybe?
Triple wishbone offense, yeah. I think J.D. Mckissick back is a big development if you get a healthy J.D. Mckissick out there or a healthy enough J.D. Mckissick, because I don't think Antonio Gibson is a 40 carries guy. I don't think that ends well. But if you can get him 25 and really lean on him and get McKissick 15,
Patterson a few carries.
I think I feel good about all those carries in total. A cold night in Philly, the weather's getting cold. If you can keep them grounded in the pass game too, you can ground it out. They've shown they can do that this year, with some key stops. And I do think Montez Sweat is a potential difference maker coming back. I think he unfairly got lumped into the Chase Young is struggling narrative. I think Montez was always playing better than Chase up until the injury.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good. And I think the other key there, you have a quarterback that. What this has done too, this break, is give Jalen Hurts time to heal his ankle.
Yes.
Right.
So he has more of a chance to play. Right. But what that means is you want you're as athletic an end as possible, and that's Montez Sweat.
Right.
So to have him back, and to have that kind of player there is pretty huge.
I think he would be a good complement with James Smith-Williams, I'm assuming, is the next one up to replace Chase. I think they're a good complement. I think James Smith-Williams is. Not many people know about him. He doesn't have the flash. He is not Montez or Chase level, obviously, but he does his job and he does it well. And I think that's good in helping to set up Montez and the interior guys.
Yeah.
So.
He's a little bit of a poor man's Terry in that, you take him in the 7th round. He was a captain. He was a leader.
Right.
We can plug him in on special teams. And then you discover you got a little bit more there.
Yeah, he does. And I think it's not. I think what those guys have done there, first of all, they've done their jobs, he and Tuhill, but also what it did is it forced Del Rio and company to be a little bit more creative, aggressive with blitzes on certain downs. And I think Nicki and you and I had exchanged some text with about where are they. It's more on 3rd downs, as we saw, where they've been blitzing more. But I think it forced them to find other ways to pressure, which I think has helped the defense grow. But back to the passing game. if it is Gilbert, because they will have to throw at some point, Michael. You know, we're not.
Thank goodness they have Terry McLaurin. That's all I have to say.
Man, I think back to last week's game, though. DeAndre Carter catches that football in the fourth quarter. It's a different season.
Yeah.
It really is, because you don't need this one. You maybe don't need the lobby to move it. It's a little bit easier to take your loss and keep moving.
Or if you have a different field goal kicker in Denver.
But you signed Curtis Samuel to be the guy to catch that football in that situation, and then he wasn't out there. It just goes to show you the domino effect of these things on an entire season.
But having Terry back, and then Cam Sims, I think, is a big addition as well.
Cam Sims is a big one. He can. The ones that I worry about now is, this is after seeing their dearth of tight ends over this past couple seasons, really. But especially right now. They're very limited. Didn't see Ricky Seals-Jones at practice on Sunday, so it's, it's a little concerning that they don't.
I was going to the tight end room too. That's a potential situation.
That is, and we don't know why he wasn't out there. And by the time you hear this, you probably will know whatever the reason was. But maybe Sadiq Charles gets some reps at tight end.
But you think
in those run game sets, he would.
Sure. But you think about those 50-50 balls, like the Cam Sims catch. I mean, Ricky Seals-Jones, had he caught that extra, the 2-point, you need guys like that in addition to Terry, because the attention's going to be 90% on Terry.
You can't just manufacture with Terry, because Darius Slay is a hell of a cornerback, and that you can't just do it with that. And that my fear is with this defense. Defense is pretty good, the Eagles' D. So I think that's where you're going to need to be very creative, but you have to hope that the defense has to keep them around. I mean, Washington's defense has to keep them around, because otherwise it's going to be a long night.
Are we all writing off Samuel? Is that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't. And the funny thing is, what kind of a loss is he? They haven't had him.
Right.
I think
it's status quo.
Yeah. I mean, almost at this point, Cam Sims may have been a bigger loss, because he can help you down the field. I kind of wish they'd use him a little bit more, and I think maybe they would this game. But and this is also where I think Adam Humphries helps a lot too. And it's funny, because as we were watching the practice today, he's walking off with Garrett Gilbert, talking to him and probably going over some things. And it might just be
veteran savvy.
It's that veteran savvy. He's got savvy, but it may just be like, I'm Adam. You throw it to me on third down. That may have been the conversation.
Humphries comes here to play with his buddy Ryan Fitzpatrick. Feels good about the season, and now here we are, mid-December. He's introducing himself to something.
Yeah, welcome. But if Heineke can play, because I think as of yesterday, there seemed to be.
Anything can happen.
Anything can happen, and we'll see how that goes. But if he can play, how does that change this game?
Dramatically. I think you even swing it back. Right now, the line's 6.5 for the Eagles. I think it's much closer to a pick than the Eagles by 2 or 3.
If they got Heineke, they got
with Heineke coming in a little bit fresher, because he got beat up in that Dallas game.
He did.
So a couple bonus days, just like Jalen Hurts is going to do
they're
a lot of good.
Even after all this COVID stuff, they're in much better shape if they have Heineke now than they certainly were ahead of the Dallas game, with that defensive line being restored.
Yes, and I also think one key for Heineke is, I think he's been very good at bouncing back from bad situations. But if they can keep it close, he's much more effective.
Here's the unquantifiable thing. Last year, these guys go to Pittsburgh. They get screwed over by the schedule. Right. You didn't really hear about it. All you heard all that week was, we're going to take care of business. They take Ron's mentality. And we're going to play when we play. I don't get the sense Philly has that mentality.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up, because that's something I've harped on, that I felt like the messaging here with from all the coaches or players has been about, hey, this is what we have to do. How important is that?
Ron's press conference on Friday, before he knew the game was postponed, was a masterclass in motivation. He's talking about, the Martys brought me these great players, and we're not even satisfied with them. We're pumped about them. We got and Garrett's played in an NFL game, man. He's poised, he's set, he's talking himself into the win instead of complaining. It was remarkable.
Well, after he talked, I went and checked Gilbert's stats again. I'm like, did I miss 5 years? He's thrown 44 passes in the NFL?
7
one
games
start?
since 14 or whatever?
Yeah. But how have you, Nicki, about the messaging, and how important is that, and what have you seen from that this week, and even,
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they've tried to play it down as much as they can, really. I mean, this is the top storyline in sports and actually national news, really.
Yeah.
Just with the outbreak in the NFL. But they've said flat out, we'll be ready when it happens, and they haven't argued strongly one way or the other. Asked about whether it's fair to postpone. They've kind of played the party line, and it's good. Don't bring too much attention.
And how much does that matter?
I think it's big because you don't want to bring too much attention to the circumstances, and just let your play speak for itself, and hopefully your play doesn't look like it did against the Dallas Cowboys.
And it's funny, if I were the Sirianni, if they had played today, I'd have been really nervous because this is when these huge upsets can occur.
No,
and
I wouldn't have been.
Let me say this, as a coach, I would have been.
Sure,
because you're always you can't lose this game.
No.
You couldn't lose this game.
That's a season ruiner if you do.
Right,
yeah.
and so if you do, it's that's a horrible reflection. Mm-hmm. So and you may have ended up blowing them out. But you go in there feeling oh my God, these guys have to be locked in because this is such an overwhelming favorite situation.
There's no upside, only downside.
Right.
The storyline everybody's ignoring, and it's going to happen, is the Ryan Kerrigan revenge game. He's going to come out with 3.5 sacks.
But so he'd get his first sack. He hasn't had any
first
sacks.
And 2 more. He's going to have a monster game.
Yeah, that's true. So last word here. I don't even know what the last word is because nobody really knows what to expect.
Here's the last word. I don't enjoy going to Philadelphia, so I appreciate we'll be up and back. It'll be quick. It's one of my least favorite cities we go to. It'll be cold. It'll be
just winning over Phillips.
The fans know how I feel about it.
If you're listening to this and you're from Philly, do not hit my car after the game. All right?
Tarek got that once.
He did.
Back in the day. Look, I think you have to consider Philly the favorites, but I think the same way last week a lot of the intangible stuff played towards Dallas, they kind of controlled the narrative. I think Washington's controlling the narrative this week. I think it's totally okay to be optimistic.
Yeah.
Nikki? I agree. I'm just not so sure about the following week, with the short schedule. That's where it becomes
You're going to have to get that custom bench ready on short notice.
I really hope Ron did get a custom bench and is bringing
fantastic.
It into Jerry World.
But I think, the next week, I think you worry about that then. If they can pull this one off, then the next week isn't quite as monstrous if they don't pull it off.
It becomes less essential, too. We said all along they needed 3 of the 5 NFC East games. If you pick up this one,
Philly and the Giants.
You just need to beat Philly and the Giants for a playoff spot. Nobody's arguing with that. That's doable.
See what happens. Should be interesting. Thanks, guys.
This episode is brought to you by Candy Crush Saga. The holidays can be pretty hectic, so take a little time for yourself with the ultimate holiday treat, the classic Match 3 puzzle Candy Crush Saga. And right now, you can catch the limited time event Sweet Surprise Season and win sweet daily rewards like a super rare party booster and up to 10 gold bars. Don't miss out. Play Sweet Surprise Season and Candy Crush Saga and crush it this holiday season now until January 1st. Download from the App Store, Google Play, or Windows Store for free. Terms and conditions apply.
This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football is back, and the best bet you can make is downloading the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It doesn't matter if you're new to gambling or an old pro, FanDuel has something for everyone. And as an official sports betting partner of the NFL, you know your bets are safe. There's also never been a better time to use FanDuel, because right now, you'll get up to $1,000 back if your first bet doesn't win. You can even turn a small wager into a big payday with a same-game parlay bet. Just sign up with the promo code SPOTIFY to place your first bet risk-free on FanDuel Sportsbook. Download FanDuel today. 21 plus and present in New Jersey. First online real money wager only. Refund issued as non-withdrawable site credit that expires in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
That's it for this episode. Thanks to Nikki and Michael for joining me, and thanks to you for listening. Crazy times, and everybody's got to be ready to adjust and adapt to changes that keep coming, not just with sports, but in society. Keep your head on a swivel, folks. I'll be back with another episode after Tuesday's game. Talk to you next time.